Hello and welcome to this exploring session as we continue our journey through the tragedy of Antony from the play by Robert Garnier, translated by Mary Sidney, and we are today looking at Act 3, 4 and 5, the rest of the play. We got a little more text to squeeze in today than we did last time. The story so far, it's all gone a bit wrong for Antony and Cleopatra. They're surrounded. The chorus of Egyptians are generally getting the message that bad things are coming their way, and so Antony's doing a lot of woe is me, and Cleopatra's doing a fair amount of woe is me too. The sequel. And whereas Cleopatra is surrounded by people trying to persuade her to change tack, as of yet, Antony has just been there in monologue, and by God, was there a lot of monologue. I was not due to be hosting today, but we've had a little switcheroo of parts, so I'm going to be staying in the seat for the duration. But we have this wonderful room of people who are going to be reading the parts of the play as follows. So reading two different choruses. So a selection of chorusi, is it chorusi? I don't know. Choruses.
Right.
Yeah. The choruses today are
Francis Cox, actor living in Amsterdam.
Reading Dircetus and Charmion today is.
Hi, I'm Tamara. I'm an actor in Germany at the moment.
And reading Agrippa today is.
Hi, I'm Eric, and I don't know what he's gripping, but I hope it's a gripping story.
Absolutely. Reading Mark Antony today is.
Hello, I'm Lois, retired academic living in London.
Reading Augustus Caesar today is.
Hi, I'm Alan Scott, based in Suffolk in the UK.
Or Caesar Augustus, I suppose. Reading Cleopatra, stepping up for fun times, is.
Hi, I'm Sarah Blake. I'm an actor, writer and director living in Germany.
Reading Euphron and Eris today is.
Hello, my name is Lynn. I teach writing to college students in Salem, Oregon in the United States.
And reading Lucilius and Children today is. Ooh. Not getting any sound. Not getting any sound out of Helen, oddly. You are not muted, but I didn't hear it. Did anyone hear anything there? No. No, we seem to have lost audio from Helen.
Can you hear me now?
We can indeed. Tell us all about yourself, Helen.
My name is Helen. I am a historian and I'm in Yorkshire.
Excellent. And I'm your host, Robert Crighton, and we have already done a fair amount of work on this play on the podcast. There is a full cast audio adaptation in the works, which is still probably quite a long way away from completion, but we've also done a lot of exploring sessions in a different format to this in the past. That's all available on the podcast, so I'm going to be endeavouring to not channel that energy. I'm going to try and channel the energy of what's coming out of this room today. We've got quite a reasonable amount of text to get through, so we're going to crack on straightway into Act 3, and here we have Enter Antony and Lucilius.
Lucille, sole comfort of my bitter case, the only trust, the only hope I have in lost despair. Is not this the day that death should me of life and love bereave? What wait I for, that have no refuge left, but am sole remnant of my fortune left? All leave me, fly me. None, no, not of them which of my greatness greatest good received, stands with my fall. They seem as now ashamed that heretofore they did me aught regard. They draw them back, showing they followed me not to partake my harms, but cozen me.
In this our world, nothing is steadfast found. In vain he hopes, who here his hopes doth ground.
Yet naught afflicts me, nothing kills me so, as that I so my Cleopatra see practice with Caesar, and to him transport my flame, her love, more dear than life to me.
Believe it not. Too high a heart she bears, too princely thoughts.
Too wise a head she wears, too much inflamed with greatness, evermore gaping for our great empire's government.
So long time you her constant love have tried.
But still with me good fortune did abide.
Her changed love, what token makes you know?
Pelusium lost and Actium overthrow, both by her fraud. My well-appointed fleet and trusty soldiers in my quarrel armed, whom she, false she, instead of my defense, came to persuade to yield them to my foe. Such honor Thyrsus done, such welcome given, their long close talks I neither knew nor would, and treacherous wrong Alexith hath me done, witness too well her perjured love to me. But you, O gods, if any faith regard, with sharp revenge her faithless change reward.
The dole she made upon our overthrow, her realm given up for refuge to our men, her poor attire when she devoutly kept the solemn day of her nativity, against the cost and prodigal expense showed when she did your birthday celebrate. Do plain enough her heart unfeigned prove, equally touched, you loving as you love.
Well, be her love to me, or false or true. Once in my soul a cureless wound I feel. I love, nay, burn in fire of her love. Each day, each night her image haunts my mind, herself my dreams. And still I tired am, and still am with burning pincers nipped. Extreme my harm, yet sweeter to my sense than boiling torch of jealous torment's fire. This grief, nay, rage, in me such stir doth keep, and thorns me still, both when I wake and sleep. Take, Caesar, conquest, take my goods, take he the honor to be lord of the earth alone. My sons, my life bent headlong to mishaps. No force, so not my Cleopatra take. So foolish I cannot her forget, though better were I banished her my thought. Like to the sick whose throat the fever's fire hath vehemently with thirsty draught inflamed, drink still, albeit the drink he still desires be nothing else but fuel to his flame. He cannot rule himself, his health's respect yieldeth to his distempered stomach's heat.
Leave of this love, that thus renews your woe.
I do my best, but cannot do so.
Think you have so brave a captain been, and now are by this vain affection fallen.
The ceaseless thought of my felicity plunges me more in this adversity. For nothing so a man in ill torments as who to him his good state represents. This makes my rack, my anguish, and my woe equal unto the hellish passions grow, when I to mind my happy puissance call, which erst I had by warlike conquest won, and that good fortune, which me never left, which hard disaster now hath me bereft. With terror tremble all the world I made at my sole word, as rushes in the streams at water's will. I conquered Italy, I conquered Rome, that nation so redoubt. I bore, meanwhile, besieging Mutina, 2 consuls' armies for my ruin brought, bathed in their blood, by their deaths witnessing my force and skill in matters martial. To wreak thy uncle, unkind Caesar, I with blood of enemies the banks imbrued of stained Enipius. hindering his course, stopped with heaps of piled carcasses. When Cassius and Brutus, ill betide, marched against us, by us twice put to flight, but by my sole conduct, for all the time Caesar, heart sick with fear and fever, lay. Who knows it not? And how by everyone fame of the fact was given to me alone. There sprang the love, the never-changing love wherein my heart hath since to yours be bound. There was it, my Lucille, you Brutus saved, and for your Brutus, Antony you found. Better my hap in gaining such a friend than in subduing such an enemy. Now, former virtue dead doth me forsake. Fortune engulfs me in extreme distress. She turns from me her smiling countenance, casting on me mishap upon mishap. Left and betrayed, 1,000 friends, once of my suit. But you, Lucille, are left, remaining to me steadfast as a tower in holy love, in spite of fortune's blasts. But if of any god my voice be heard, and be not vainly scattered in the heavens, such goodness shall not gloryless be lost, but coming ages still thereof shall boast.
Men in their friendship ever should be one, and never aught with fickle fortune shake, which still removes, nor will nor knows the way her rolling ball in one sure state to stay. Wherefore we ought, as borrowed things receive, the goods light she lends us to pay again. Not hold them sure, nor on them build our hopes, as on such goods as cannot fail and fall. But think again, nothing is durable, virtue except. Our never failing host, so bearing sail when favouring winds do blow, as frowning tempests may us least dismay, when they on us do fall, not overgrieved with bad, resist mishap.
Alas, it is too strong. Mishaps oft times are by some comfort borne, but these, ay me, whose weights oppress my heart, too heavy lie, no hope can them relieve. There rests no more, but that with cruel blade for lingering death a hasty way be made.
Caesar, as heir unto his father's state, so will his father's goodness imitate. To you would, whom he knows, allied in blood, allied in marriage, ruling equally the empire with him, and with him making war, have purged the earth of Caesar's murderers. You into portions parted have the world, even like co-heirs their heritage part. And now, with one accord, so many years in quiet peace, both have your charges ruled.
Blood and alliance, nothing do prevail to cool the thirst of hot, ambitious breasts. The son his father hardly can endure, brother his brother in one common realm. So fervent this desire to command, such jealousy it kindleth in our hearts. Sooner will men permit another should love her they love than wear the crown they wear. All laws it breaks, turns all things upside down, amity, kindred, naught so holy is, but it defiles. A monarchy to gain, none cares which way, so he may it obtain.
Suppose he monarch be, and all this world no more acknowledging sundry emperors, that Rome him only fear, and that he join the East with West, and both at once do rule. Why should he not permit you peaceably, discharged of charge and empire's dignity, private to live, reading philosophy in learned Greece, Spain, Asia, any land?
Never will he his empire think assured, while in this world Mark Antony shall live. Sleepless suspicion, pale distrust, cold fear, always to princes company do bear, bred of reports, reports which night and day perpetual guests from court go not away.
He hath not slain your brother Lucius, nor shortened hath the age of Lepidus, albeit both into his hands were fallen, and he with wrath against them both inflamed. Yet one as lord in quiet rest doth bear the greatest sway in great Iberia, the other with his gentle prince retains of highest priest the sacred dignity.
He fears not them, their feeble force he knows.
He fears no vanquished, overfilled with woes.
Fortune may change again.
A downcast foe can hardly rise, which once is brought so low.
All that I can is done. For last assay, when all means failed, I to entreaty fell, coward creature, whence again repulsed, of combat I unto him proffer made, though he in prime and I in feeble age, mightily weakened both in force and skill, yet could not he his coward heart advance, basely afraid to try such praiseful chance. This makes me plain, makes me myself accuse. Fortune in this her spiteful force doth use against my gray hairs. In this unhappy I repine at heavens in my haps titiless. A man, a woman, both in might and mind, in Mars his school who never lesson learned, should me repulse, change, overthrow, destroy, me of such fame bring to so low an ebb. Alcides' blood, who from my infancy with happy prowess crowned have my praise, witness thou, Gaul, unused to servile yoke, thou, valiant Spain, you fields of Thessaly, with millions of mourning cries bewailed, twice watered now with blood of Italy.
Witness may Afric, and of conquered world, all four quarters witness may be, for in what part of earth inhabited, hungry of praise, have you not ensigns spread?
Thou knowest rich Egypt, Egypt of my deeds fair and foul subject. Egypt, thou knowest how I behaved me fighting for thy king, when I regained him his rebellious realm, against his foes in battle showing force, and after fight in victory remorse. Yet, if to bring my glory to the ground, fortune had made me overthrown by one of greater force, of better skill than I, one of those captains feared so of old, Camille, Marcellus, worthy Scipio, this late great Caesar, honor of our state, or that great Pompey, aged grown in arms, that after harvest of a world of men, made in 100 battles, fights, assaults, my body thorough pierced with push of pike, had vomited my blood, in blood my life, in midst of millions fellows in my fall, the less her wrong, the less should be my woe, nor she should pain, nor I complain me so. No, no. Whereas I should have died in arms, and vanquished oft, new armies should have armed, new battles given, and rather lost with me all this whole world submitted unto me. A man who never saw enlaced pikes with bristled points against his stomach bent, who fears the field and hides him cowardly, dead at the very noise the soldiers make. His virtue, fraud, deceit, malicious guile. His arms, the arts that false Ulysses used, known at Modena, where the consuls both dead wounded were, and wounded by his men to get their army, war with it to make against his faith, against his country soil. Of Lepidus, which to his succor came, to honor whom he was by duty bound, the empire he usurped, corrupting first with baits and bribes the most part of his men. Yet me hath overcome, and made his prey, and state of Rome with me hath overcome. Strange, one disordered act at Actium, the earth subdued, my glory hath obscured. For since, as one whom heaven's wrath attaints, with fury caught and more than furious, vexed with my evil, I never more had care my army's lost or lost name to repair. I did no more resist.
All wars are fairs, but battles most daily have their success, now good, now ill. And though that fortune have great force and power in every worldly thing, rule all, do all, have all things fast and chained unto the circle of her turning wheel, yet seems it more than any practice else she doth frequent Bellona's bloody trade, and that her favour wavering as the wind, her greatest power therein dost oftenest show. Whence grows we daily see, who in their youth get honour there, do lose it in their age, vanquished by some less warlike than themselves, whom yet a meaner man shall overthrow. Her use is not to lend us still her hand, but sometimes headlong back again to throw, whereby her favour she hath us extolled unto the top of highest happiness.
Well ought I curse within my grieved soul, lamenting day and night, this senseless love, whereby my fair enticing foe entrapped my heedless reason, could no more escape. It was not fortune's ever-changing face, it was not destiny's changeless violence, forged my mishap. Alas, who does not know they make nor mar, nor anything can do? Fortune, which men so fear, adore, detest, is but a chance whose cause unknown doth rest, although oft times the cause is well perceived, but not the effect the same that was conceived. Pleasure, naught else, the plague of this our life which still 1,000 plagues pursue, alone hath me this strange disaster spun, fallen from a soldier to a chamberer, careless of virtue, careless of all praise, nay, as the fatted swine, in filthy mire, with glutted heart, I wallowed in delights, all thoughts of honor trodden underfoot. So I me lost, for finding this sweet cup pleasing my taste, unwise I drunk my fill, and through the sweetness of that poison's power, by steps I drove my former wits astray. I made my friends offended me forsake. I holp my foes against myself to rise. I robbed my subjects, and for flat followers I saw myself beset with flatterers. Mine idle arms fair wrought with spiders' work. My scattered men without their ensigns strayed. Caesar, meanwhile, who never would have dared to cope with me suddenly despised, took heart to fight, and hoped for victory on one so gone, who glory had foregone.
Enchanting pleasure, Venus' sweet delights, weaken our bodies, overcloud our sprites, trouble our reason, from our hearts outchase all holy virtues lodging in their place. Like as the cunning fisher takes the fish by traitor bait, whereby the hook is hid, so pleasure serves to vice instead of food, to bait our souls thereon too liquorish. This poison deadly is alike to all, but on great kings doth greatest outrage work. Taking the royal scepters from their hands, thenceforward to be by some stranger borne, while that their people, charged with heavy loads, their flatterers pill and suck their marrow dry, not ruled but left to great men as prey, while this fond prince himself in pleasures drowns, who hears naught, sees naught, does naught of a king, seeming himself against himself conspired. Then equal justice wandereth banished, and in her seat sits greedy tyranny. Confused disorder troubleth all estates. Crimes without fear and outrages are done. Then mutinous rebellion shows her face, now hid with this, and now with that pretense, provoking enemies which on either side enter at ease and make them lords of all. The hurtful works of pleasure here behold.
The wolf is not so hurtful to the fold, frost to the grapes, to ripened fruits the rain, as pleasure is to princes full of pain.
There needs no proof but by the Assyrian king, on whom that monster woeful wrack did bring.
There needs no proof but by unhappy I, who lost my empire, honor, life thereby.
Yet hath this ill so much the greater force, as scarcely any do against it stand. No, not the demigods the old world knew, who all subdued could pleasure's power subdue. Great Hercules once that was wonder of earth and heaven, matchless in might, who Antaeus, Lycus, Geryon overcame, who drew from hell the triple-headed dog, who Hydra killed, vanished Achelos, who heaven's weight on his strong shoulders bore. Did he not captive to this passion yield? When by his captive so he was inflamed, as now yourself in Cleopatra burn. Slept in her lap, her bosom kissed and kissed, with base unseemly service bought her love, spinning at distaff and with sinewy hand winding on spindle's thread in maid's attire. His conquering club at rest on wall did hang, his bow unstringed he bent not as he used, upon his shafts the weaving spinners spun, and his hard cloak the fretting moths did pierce. The monsters free and fearless all the time, throughout the world the people did torment, and more increasing day by day, scorned his weak heart, become a mistress play.
In only this, like Hercules am I, in this I prove me of his lineage right. In this himself, his deeds I show in this naught else, my ancestor he is. But go we, die I must, and with brave end conclusion make of all foregoing harms. Die I must a noble death, a glorious death, unto my succor call. I must deface the shame of time abused. I must adorn the wanton loves I used with some courageous act. That my last day by mine own hand my spots may wash away. Come, dear Lucille, alas, why weep you thus? This mortal lot is common to us all. We must all die. Each doth in homage owe unto that God that shared the realms below. Ah, sigh no more. Alas, appease your woes, for by your grief my grief more eager grows.
And they exit, and we'll pause before we go to the chorus, though keep this mood in mind for when we step to the chorus in a moment. So this is the post-match discussion between the managers. What went wrong? Just why did everything go wrong? What was the primary cause? We've got various things thrown in here. We've got, as well as just general disappointment about how badly the fixture went. Antony is clearly not very happy that, it wouldn't have been great if he just died in a glorious battle. That would have been so much better. Just think of good old days when he killed lots of people. He was great at killing people in the good old days. And then what? They're just sort of trapped here, and everybody's gone, and it's just this is not how it was supposed to end, people. Sarah, thoughts about the scene, about the characters, about what what's going on emotionally between them, things. Sarah first.
Well, what's going on emotionally? I mean, the thing that struck me about this scene was I talked a lot yesterday about the shape of this play, and and how it seemed to have a very logical structure. And it seemed to kind of know what it was doing in its structure. And what struck me about this scene was it's pretty much the mirror image of the previous scene that we had with Cleopatra yesterday. Yesterday you had Cleopatra lamenting. Today you've got Antony lamenting. Both of them have got these sort of faithful, stout retainers who are doing their best to comfort them with talk of being like, at the mercy of fortune. And in both cases, both of them are saying, yeah, no, destiny is not a thing. It's entirely our fault. And in both cases, the retainers are trying to talk them out of suicide, which again isn't going well. And also, like in both this I thought was interesting. Both Cleopatra and Antony are really obsessed with their reputations, how posterity is going to view them. But all Cleopatra wants is to be seen as loyal to Antony. She didn't betray him, whereas he is actually not remotely bothered about her in terms of his posterity. He just wants to be seen as heroic. He actually feels shame for sort of being in love with her, and he just wants to kind of blot all that out with some great heroic act of suicide. So I just thought it was a really interesting juxtaposition. These scenes are so similar and the characters are so similar in many ways, and yet it's all the similarities seem there deliberately to play up the differences, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's interesting. Lucilius and Charmion, you could argue that, but they're both arguing. She's not worth it.
Yeah.
Other thoughts in the room about this scene? It's a big debate. It sort of shifts as it goes along, and some of it is very formal and stuff. But there's other things going on. Lynn, then Lois.
Yeah, this would be a really challenging scene to make work for a modern audience. For a couple of reasons. Obviously, it's quite talky. So I think the obvious format for this text would be an audio drama, a podcast or something like that, because it's all about the language. There doesn't seem to be a lot of action. But, both these characters, both the actors playing these characters, have big challenges. Antony's being that he has these long monologues, speeches that I thought Lois did a great job of making it really clear and making the emotional motivation behind the what was being said clear, but still kind of keeping the audience's attention and finding enough levels to make that interesting. That's a challenge. And Lucilius, how do you keep the audience from seeing that he's just there to be a foil? How do you make Lucilius seem like a person? Because, first of all, he starts out saying, oh no, Cleopatra's loyal to you. She loves you. And then he switches to saying, you should leave her. She's bad for you. But is that the same? And then, your reputation matters. Oh, well, this happens to everybody. So his sort of position of reasoning doesn't seem to be consistent. So making him seem like a character, a person, would be challenging.
Yeah, it's that thing of what are the strategies that people or these characters are doing to get at these monolithic figures of Antony and Cleopatra, and it's like they're sort of throwing jelly at walls and constantly trying to nail it down, and it's not working. Interesting thing when you're talking about the words and the as a podcast. Actually, the problem with the podcast is actually sometimes with a more debatey thing, you need the physicality of people in the room for it to actually land. It's actually it's one of the big problems. Is stuff that looks like, oh, that'd be great audio, isn't in a weird way. In rehearsals, let's put it this way, across genders, the basic note for anyone playing Lucilius or Charmion, the comment that kept coming up was just, oh, can I slap them yet? Do they just want to give him or her a slap. And that seems to be the motivation for Lucilius. He's just resisting the urge to just grab him and shake him. Lois.
Yeah, it seems to me that, I don't know, Lucilius just seems to me to sort of speak a little essay on whatever topic they've just been on. I mean, whether it's war or fortune or love or whatever. I mean, here's what can be said about that. I mean, what gets me about the scene is that it doesn't move anywhere. I mean, nobody makes any different decision at any point. If this were by Racine, we would certainly have, they'd get to a certain point and Antony would say, yes, I don't think I will commit suicide. I think I'll go and speak to Caesar. And then Lucilius would say something else. And then Antony might say, no, I think I'll do this. I mean, there'd be some change of plan. There'd be some sense that something was going to happen. But here, I mean, Antony comes on and says it's time to commit suicide. And then they go through all the reasons why things are bad. And then at the end, he says it's now time to commit suicide. And then they go off and he's going to do it.
Yeah, it's this sort of
You could cut
this play.
it then.
Yeah, this play doesn't ever present us with another way out ever. I mean, we were talking about it's quite tragic. This is quite dark. It's this constant weight on everyone. It's just we know where this is going, and they're actually at no point is anyone presenting us there might be a last minute or there's an escape. There's none of that. It's just we just keep moving towards doom. Sarah, then Francis.
Coming back on what Lynn was saying about how do you find a character for this man? One, and actually going to your point as well, Rob, about how you still need that physicality even when you're doing audio. One exercise I use quite a lot in the rehearsal room, it's a common one. It's like when you get your actors to work out what kind of animal their characters would be. And I think going back to what I was saying about these being mirror scenes, this scene and the Cleopatra scene being mirrors of each other, Charmion and Lucilius are both, I think, because they're both very loyal and stalwart, but they don't have any power to actually change the minds of the people that they're trying to save. You could play both of them as dogs if you were going to have them as when you were doing your characterization. But the difference is Charmion's like a collie, so really super intelligent and very grounded. Whereas Lucilius, I think, is more of a Labrador. Like, yeah, no, you shouldn't do that. That would be really bad. Oh, you're going to do it anyway. Okay, I'll just agree with you then. And just, I'll try and, I'll just be here with you. Whacking the tail.
Awesome.
Yeah, because he's always there, isn't it? It's that thing of, but actually we got that with Charmion as well. There's that bit when we were talking about being really emotionally, I can't remember the word that was used, but where they're saying
she's a bit more emotionally intelligent, though. She's a bit more.
Well, Cleopatra says to Charmion, you go and save yourselves, and Charmion gets really quite shirty, going, well, just because we don't agree with you doesn't mean we're not going to die. We are loyal. Yeah. And she gets really shirty with Cleopatra, just going, we know our jobs. We don't agree with you, but we're not going anywhere. We're loyal people. Francis, then Helen, then we're going to have to move on.
Yeah, sort of pick up on Lois's point that nothing much seems to happen in these scenes. I actually read the text I missed yesterday, and I was quite stunned when I realized where in the story of Antony and Cleopatra this play begins, because it's right at the end. And it seems to me, reading the text, that one of the functions of these long speeches is to tell the story that we've missed, and sort of tell us how the characters reach this pretty pass.
Yes, because otherwise it's almost all in real time, isn't it? It's filling in all the backstory, because Antony doesn't have much time left.
I mean, normally when you see a production of the story of Antony and Cleopatra, it's God, I've forgotten where I was going with this. You kind of start, more or less after the death of Caesar or something.
Helen.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a reason for this. Is I think under Lois's correction, this is another French aspect that they tried to keep their plays within a 24-hour span, as well as not having a comic. But I just wanted to put in a couple of bits about reading this guy. He was, for reading cold, he was about as difficult as anything I've had to read for you. I mean, it was really, really difficult to read cold, except for the last two big speeches, which were a doddle. And I'm not entirely sure why, but there is a very definite change. The last two speeches really flowed beautifully. Don't know, I throw that out as a thought.
Excellent. We collect thoughts. Francis?
Yeah, I agree with that, because I was reading. Like I said, I read the first half, even though I missed yesterday, and I thought, God, these speeches are long, and it's difficult to tell sometimes what they're saying or to work out all the intricacies of the speeches. But when we were reading the speeches today, I was just like, oh, this really reads quite well, and there's some lovely imagery. Like, I love that image of Fortune as a rolling ball, and so I was wondering, is that just because the speeches seem easier because we're reading them aloud, or
it's one of those things that there's a lot to dig out of these speeches as well, and there's a lot there. You weren't here yesterday, so you don't know. There is a moratorium on stating that there are long speeches in this play.
Oh right, I'm sorry.
You know, we're there. It is noted. It is noted, and that's why God invented blue pencils. We need to move on because we've got still quite a lot of text to get through, but we've got a short moment. We have met the chorus several times. Chorus has been moving in a general direction of despondency, from life is terrible to we are surrounded by terrible people who are probably going to kill us, to where we are here, where the questions of death are very, very much, definitely very in the forefront of their minds here, I think. Not leading the witness too much there. Just to set you in the mind, we've just gone from a discussion of suicide to this. Go chorus.
Alas, what with tormenting fire us martyreth this blind desire to stay our life from flying. How ceaselessly our minds doth rack, how heavy lies upon our back this dastard fear of dying. Death rather healthful succour gives, death rather all mishaps relieves, that life upon us throweth, and ever to us death unclose the door whereby from cureless woes our weary soul outgoeth. What goddess else more mild than she to bury all our pain can be? What remedy more pleasing? Our pained hearts when dolor stings and nothing rest or respite brings. What help have we more easing? Hope which to us doth comfort give, and doth our fainting hearts revive, hath not such force in anguish for promising a vain relief. She oft us fails in midst of grief, and helpless lets us languish. But death, who call on her at need, doth never with vain semblant feed, but when them sorrow paineth, so rids their souls of all distress, whose heavy weight did them oppress, that not one grieveth remaineth. Who fearless and with courage bold can Acheron's black face behold, which muddy water beareth and crosseth over in the way, is not amazed at perruque grey old rusty Charon weareth. Who void of dread can look upon the dreadful shades that roam alone on banks where sound no voices, whom with her fire brands and her snakes no wit afraid Alecto makes, nor triple barking noises. Who freely can himself dispose of that last hour which all must close, and leave this life at pleasure, this noble freedom more esteems, and in his heart more precious deems than crown and kingly treasure. The waves which Boreas, the blast's turmoil, and cause with foaming fury boil, make not his heart to tremble, nor brutish boil, when with strong head and rebel people madly led against their lords assemble, nor fearful face of tyrant wood, who breathes but threats and drinks but blood, nor the hand which thunder, nor the hand which thunder, the hand of Jove which thunder bears, and ribs of rock in sunder tears mountains sides in sunder, nor bloody Mars butchering hands, whose lightning desert lay the lands, whom dusty clouds do cover, from off whose armour sunbeams fly, and under them may quaking lie the plains whereon they hover, nor yet the cruel murthering blade, warm in the moisty bowels made of people pell-mell dying, in some great city put to sack, by savage tyrant brought to rack, at his cold mercy lying. How abject him, how base think I, who wanting courage cannot die, when need him thereto calleth, from whom the dagger drawn to kill, the cureless griefs that vex him still, for fear and faintness falleth. O Antony, with thy dear mate, both in misfortunes fortunate, whose thoughts to death aspiring, shall you protect from victor's rage, who on each side doth you encage, to triumph much desiring. That Caesar may you not offend, naught else but death can you defend, which his weak force derideth, and all in this round earth contained, powerless on them whom once enchained Avernus prison hideth, where great Psametes' ghost doth rest, not with infernal pain possessed, but in sweet fields detained, and old Amasis' soul likewise, and all our famous Ptolemies, that whilom on us reigned.
Yes, so we've just gone from a scene with Antony, death and destruction, and we actually get the chorus. I don't know if the earlier choruses did that, but we get name checks. They're literally calling, talking about Antony, who we've just met, and they're talking about Caesar, who we're about to meet. So there's a really interesting engagement with that. Short thoughts from the room before we move on to the next act. Especially anyone who's here for choruses last time. Lois.
There was one extraordinary bit about people being amazed at with peruke grey, old rusty Karen beareth. I mean, that seemed to be a hilarious line. I'd love to know what the original was. Old Karen wearing his grey wig. I mean, why?
Yes, every so often the text does throw out this slightly odd thing. And I'm wondering if that's just trying to translate short lines from the French, and just every so often it just slightly fails. It seems to be in the choruses where those little trips occasionally happen. Sarah, I saw a hand.
Yes, I was just wondering. This chorus is different to the others. It kind of starts to gallop to a bit of crescendo at the end there. And I was just wondering, could you perhaps actually show Antony dying here, or at least some sort of have because it seems the rhythm seems to really pick up, and I was wondering if you could have some sort of action going on in the background.
You could, but I'm gonna put a pin in that thought for a little later on. Hold on to that thought. It's a good thought. I think you're right about the rhythm.
Yeah.
In rehearsal, because for the audio, we did try and do this with multiple voices simultaneously, and we did it at pace. God only knows if it worked. I haven't reviewed the recordings yet, but it's something that there's a sort of energy to this. That when not cold reading you're able to give, and that's interesting. Other thoughts before we move forward? This is the last time we see the Egyptian chorus, by the way. So get your comments on the Egyptian chorus in now, Eric.
Well, they kind of want to justify the suicide. They're like, Caesar, may you not offend, naught else but death can you defend. Basically, like, well, you fucked up, so you should die. Since you kind of since you reached that extreme of of failure, and you're being conquered and surrounded and stuff, you just you give up. You don't fight back. You don't try to beg for your life or anything. You just kill yourself.
Yes, you die so we don't have to. I think it's a reasonable point from the citizens, because a Roman army turning up on your door, that can go very, very badly. How nice is the army going to be at this stage? Nobody knows. Other thoughts before I go? We hurtle into Act 4. Okay, someone called on Caesar, and so Caesar appears, and so we firmly move over to the Roman side of this thing. We're going to hear from the other side of the argument, perhaps. Who knows? So we have here Act 4, and we have Caesar and Agrippa.
You ever-living gods, which all things hold within the power of your celestial hands, by whom heat, cold, the thunder and the wind, the properties of interchanging months, their course and being have, which do set down of empires by your destined decree, the force, age, time, and subject to no change all, reserving nothing in one state. You had advanced as high as thundering heaven, the Romans' greatness by Bellona's might, mastering the world with fearful violence, making the world widow of liberty. Yet at this day, the proud exalted Rome, despoiled, captive that one man's will doth bend, her empire mine, her life is in my hand, as monarch I both world and Rome command. Do all, can all, forth my commandment cast, like thundering fire from one to other pole, equal to Jove, bestowing by my word haps and mishaps, as fortune's king and lord. No town there is, but up my image sets, but sacrifice to me doth daily make, whither where Phoebus join his morning steeds, or where the night them weary entertains, or where the heat the Garamant scorch, or where the cold from Boreas' breath is blown. All Caesar do but awe and honour bear, and crowned kings his very name doth fear. Antony knows it well, for whom not one of all the princes all this earth do rule, arms against me, for all redoubt the power which heavenly powers on earth have made me bear. Antony, he poor man with fire inflamed, a woman's beauties kindled in his heart, rose against me, who longer could not bear my sister's wrong, he did so ill entreat, seeing her left, while that his lewd delights, her husband with this Cleopatra took, in Alexandria, where both nights and days, their time they passed in naught but loves and plays. All Asia's forces into one he drew, and forth he set upon the azured waves, 1,000 ships, which filled with soldiers, pikes, with targets, arrows, darts, made Neptune quake, and all the watery troops of Glaucus and Tritons lodged at Actium. But mighty gods, who still the force withstand of him who caused thus another wrong, in less than moment's space reduced to naught all that proud power by sea or land he brought.
Presumptuous pride of high and haughty sprite, voluptuous care, fond and foolish love, have justly wrought his wrack on who thought he held, by overweening, fortune in his hand. Of us he made no count, but as to play, so fearless came our forces to essay. So sometimes fell to sons of Mother Earth, which crawled to heaven, war on the god to make. Olymp on Pelion, Ossa on Olymp, Pindus on Ossa, loading by degrees, that at hand strokes with mighty clubs the might on mossy rocks the gods make tumble down. When mighty Jove with burning anger chafed, disbrained with him Gyges and Briareus is not the right word, blunting his darts upon their bruised bones. For no one thing the gods can less abide in deeds of men than arrogance and pride. And still the proud, which too much takes in hand, shall foulest fall where best he thinks to stand.
Right as some palace or some stately tower, which overlooks the neighbour buildings round, in scorning wise, and to the stars upgrows, which in short time his own weight overthrows. What monstrous pride, nay, what impiety, incensed him onwards to the gods' disgrace, when his two children, Cleopatra's brats, to Phoebe and her brother he compared, Latona's race, causing them to be called the sun and moon. Is not this folly right? And is this not the gods to make his foes? And is this not himself to work his woes?
In like proud sort he caused his head to lease, the Jewish king Antigonus to have his realm for balm, that Cleopatra loved, as though on him he had some treason proved.
Lydia to her, and Syria he gave, Cyprus of gold, Arabia full of richer smells, and to his children more Cilicia, Parths, Medes, Armenia, Phoenicia, the king of kings proclaiming them to be, by his own word, as by a sound decree.
What, robbing his own country of her due, triumphed he not in Alexandria of Artabazus the Armenian king, who yielded on his perjured word to him?
Nay, never Rome more injuries received, since thou, O Romulus, by flight of birds, with happy hand the Roman walls didst build. Then Antony's fond loves to it hath done, nor ever more warm or holy, nor more just, nor undertaken with more hard constraint than is this war, which were it not our state, within small time all dignity should lose, though I lament, thou sun my witness art, and thou great Jove, that it so deadly proves, that Roman blood should in such plenty flow, watering the fields and pastures where we go. What Carthage in old hatred obstinate, what Gaul still barking at our rising state, what rebel Samnite, what fierce Pyrrhus power, what cruel Mithridate with Parth hath wrought such woe to Rome, whose commonwealth he had he been victor, into Egypt brought.
Surely the gods which have this city built steadfast to stand as long as time endures, which keep the capital of us, take care, and care will take of those shall after come, have made you victor that you might redress their honor grown by past mischiefs less.
The sealy man, when all the Greekish sea his feet had hid in hope me sure to drown, me battle gave, when fortune in my stead, repulsing him his forces disarrayed, himself took flight, soon as his love he saw, all wan through fear with full sails fly away. His men, though lost, whom none did now direct, with courage fought fast, grappled ship with ship, charging, resisting, as their oars would serve, with darts, with swords, with pikes, with fiery flames, so that the darkened night her starry veil upon the bloody sea had overspread, whilst yet they held, and hardly then they fell to flying on the wavy plain, all full of soldiers overwhelmed with waves, the air throughout with cries and groans did sound, the sea did blush with blood, the neighbour shores groaned, so that they with shipwrecks pestered were, and floating bodies left for pleasing food to birds and beasts and fishes of the sea. You know it well, Agrippa.
Meet it was the Roman Empire so should ruled be, as heaven is ruled, which turning over us all under things by his example turns. Now as of heaven one only Lord we know, one only Lord should rule this earth below. When one self-power is common made to two, their duties they not suffer, nor will, nor do. In quarrel still, in doubt, in hate, in fear. Meanwhile the people all the smart do bear.
Then to the end none, while my days endure, seeking to raise himself may succours find. We must with blood mark this our victory, for just example to all memory. Murder we must, until not one we leave, which may hereafter us of rest bereave.
Mark it with murthers, who of that can like?
Murthers misuse, who doth assurance seek.
Assurance call you to enemies to make?
I make no such, but such a way I take.
Nothing so much as rigour doth displease.
Nothing so much doth make me live at ease.
What ease to him that is feared of all?
Feared to be, and see his foes to fall.
Commonly fear doth breed and nourish hate.
Hate without power comes commonly too late.
A feared prince hath oft his death desired.
A prince not feared hath oft his wrong conspired.
No guard so sure, no forte so strong doth prove, no such defence as is the people's love.
Naught more unsure, more weak, more like the wind, than people's favour still to change inclined.
Good gods, what love do gracious prince men bear!
What honour to the prince that is severe!
Naught more divine than is benignity.
Nought like the gods as doth severity.
Gods all forgive,
Our faults they pains do lay,
and give their goods.
oft times they take away.
They wreak them not, O Caesar, at each time that by our sins they are to wrath provoked. Neither must you, believe I humbly pray, your victory with cruelty defile. The gods it gave it must not be abused, but to the good of all men mildly used, and they be thanked that having given you grace to reign alone and rule this earthly mass, they may henceforward hold it in rest, all scattered power united in one breast.
But what is he that breathless comes so fast, approaching us and going in such haste?
He seems afraid, and under his arm I, but much I err, bloody sword I spy.
I long to understand what it may be.
He hither comes, it's best we stay and see.
What good God now my voice will reinforce, that tell I may to rocks and hills and woods, to waves of sea which dash upon the shore, to earth, to heaven, the woeful news I bring.
What sudden chance thee towards us hath brought?
A lamentable chance, oh wrath of heavens, oh gods too pitiless.
What monstrous hap wilt thou recount?
Alas, too hard mishap. When I but dream of what mine eyes beheld, my heart doth freeze, my limbs do quivering quake, I senseless stand, my breast with tempest tossed, kills in my throat my words ere fully born. Dead he is. Be sure of what I say, this murthering sword hath made the man away.
Alas, my heart doth cleave, pity me racks, my breast doth pant to hear this doleful tale. Is Antony then dead? To death, alas? I am the cause, despair him so compelled. But soldier, of his death the manner show, and how he did this living light forego.
When Antony, no hope remaining, saw how war he might, or how agreement make, saw him betrayed by all his men of war, in every fight, as well by sea as land, that not content to yield them to their foes, they also came against himself to fight. Alone in court he gan himself torment, accused the queen himself of her lament, called her untrue, and traitress, as who sought to yield him up, she could no more defend, that in the harms which for her sake he bare, as in his blissful state she might not share. But she again, who much his fury feared, gat to the tombs, dark horror's dwelling place, made lock the doors and pull the hearses down. Then fell she wretched with herself to fight. 1,000 plaints, 1,000 sobs she cast from her weak breast, which to the bones was torn. Of women her the most unhappy called, who by her love, her woeful love, had lost her realm, her life, and more the love of him, who while he was all her woes support. But that she faultless was, she did invoke for witness heaven and earth and for witness heaven and air and earth and sea, then sent him word she was no more alive, but lay enclosed dead within her tomb. This he believed, and fell to sigh and groan, and crossed his arms, then thus began to moan.
Oh, poor helpless man.
What dost thou more tend? Oh, Antony, why dost thou death defer? Since fortune thy professed enemy hath made to die, who only made thee live? Soon as with sighs he had these words up closed, his armour he unlaced and cast it off. Then all disarmed he thus again did say, My queen, my heart, the grief that now I feel is not that I your eyes, my son, do lose. For soon again one tomb shall us conjoin. I grieve who men so valorous did deem, should now than you of lesser valour seem. So said, forthwith he Eros to himself called, Eros, his man, summoned him on his faith to kill him at his need. He took the sword, and at that instant stabbed therewith his breast, and ending life, fell dead before his feet. Oh, Eros, thanks, quoth Antony, for this most noble act, who powerless me to kill, on thee has done what I on me should do. Of speaking thus, he scarce had made an end, and taken up the bloody sword from ground, but he his body pierced, and of red blood a gushing fountain all the chamber filled. He staggered at the blow, his face grew pale, and on a couch all feeble down he fell. Sounding with anguish, deadly cold him took, as if his soul had then his lodging left. But he revived, and marking all our eyes bathed in tears, and how our breasts we beat for anguish, pity, and for bitter grief to see him plunged in extreme wretchedness, he prayed us all to haste his lingering death, but no man willing, each himself withdrew. Then fell he new to cry and vex himself, until a man from Cleopatra came, who said from her he had commandment to bring him to her to the monument. The poor soul at these words, even rapt with joy, knowing she lived, prayed us him to convey unto his lady. Then upon our arms we bare him to the tomb, but entered not. For she so feared captive to be made, and that she should to Rome in triumph go, kept close the gate, but from a window high cast down a cord wherein he was impact. Then by her women's help the cord she raised, and by strong arms into her window drew. So pitiful a sight was never seen. Little and little Antony was pulled, now breathing death. His beard was all unkempt, his face and breast all bathed in his blood, so hideous yet, and dying as he was, his eyes half closed upon the queen he cast, held up his hands, and holp himself to raise, but still with weakness back his body fell. The miserable lady, with moist eyes, with hair which careless on her forehead hung, with breast which blows had bloodily benumbed, with stooping head and body downward bent, enlaced her in the cord, and with all force this life-dead man courageously upraised, the blood with pain into her face did flow, her sinew stiff, herself did breathless grow. The people which beneath in flocks beheld, assisted her with gestures, speech, desire, cried and encouraged her, and in their soulless did sweat and labour no whit less than she, who never tired in labour, held so long, held by her women and her constant heart, that Antony was drawn into the tomb, and there I think, if dead augments the sum. The city all to tears and sighs turned, to plaints and outcries, horrible to hear. Men, women, children, hoary-headed aged, all pell-mell in house and street lament, scratching their faces, tearing off their hair, wringing their hands, and martyring their breasts, extreme their dole, and greater misery in sacked towns can hardly ever be. Not if the fire that had scaled the highest towers, that all things were false and murder full, that in the streets the blood in rivers streamed, the son his sire saw in his bosom slain, the sire his son, the husband reft of breath in his wife's arms, who furious run to death. Now my breast, wounded with their piteous plaints, I left their town, and took with me this sword, which I took up at what time Antony was from his chamber carried to the tomb, and brought it you, to make his death more plain, and that thereby my words may credit gain.
Ah, gods, what cruel hap! Poor Antony! Alas, hast thou this sword so long time borne against thy foe, that in the end it should of thee, his lord, the cursed murderer be? O death, how I bewail thee! We, alas, so many wars have ended, brothers, friends, companions, cousins, equals in estate, and must it now to kill thee be my fate?
Why trouble you yourself with bootless grief? For Antony, why spend you tears in vain? Why darken you with dole your victory? Meseems yourself your glory do envy. Enter the town, give thanks unto the gods.
I cannot but his tearful chance lament, although not I, but his own pride the cause, and unchaste love of this Egyptian.
But best we sort into the tomb to get, lest she consume in this amazed case so much rich treasure, which with which haply despair in death may make her feed the fire. Suffering the flames her jewels to deface, you to defraud her funeral to grace. Send then to her, and let some mean be used, with some device so hold her still alive. Some fair large promises, and let them mark whither they may by some fine cunning sleight enter the tombs.
Let Proculaus go, and feed with hope her soul disconsolate. Assure her so, that we may wholly get into our hands her treasure and herself. For this of all things most I do desire, to keep her safe until our going hence, that by her presence beautified may be the glorious triumph Rome prepares for me.
And we'll go straight into the chorus of Roman soldiers. So from the proclamation of Caesar there into a chorus of Roman soldiers.
Shall ever civil bait gnaw and devour our state? Shall never we this blade our blood hath bloody made lay down? These arms down lay as robes we wear alway, but as from age to age, so pass from rage to rage. Our hands shall we not rest to bathe in our own breast, and shall thick in each land our wretched trophies stand, to tell posterity what mad impiety our stony stomachs led against the place us bred. Then still must heaven view the plagues that us pursue, and where everywhere descry heaps of us scattered lie, making the stranger plains fat with our bleeding reins, proud that on them their grave so many legions have. And with our fleshes still, Neptune his fishes fill, and drunk with blood from blue the sea takes blushing hue, as juice of Tyrian shell, when clarified well to wool of finest fields, a purple gloss it yields. But since the rule of Rome to many man's hand is come, who governs without mate her now united state, late jointly ruled by three envying mutually, whose triple yoke much woe on Latins' necks did throw. I hope the cause of jar and of this bloody war and deadly discord gone by what we last have done, our bank shall cherish now the branchy pale-hued bough of olive, Pallas praise instead of barren bays, and that his temple door, which bloody Mars before held open, now at last old Janus shall make fast, and rust the sword consume, and spoiled of waving plume, the useless morion shall on crook hang by the wall. At least if war return, it shall not here sojourn, to kill us with those arms were forged for other harms, but have their points addressed against the German's breast, the Parthians' feigned flight, the Biscaynes' martial might. Old memory doth here, painted on forehead wear our fathers' praise, thence torn our triumphs bays have worn, thereby our matchless Rome whilom of shepherds come, raised to this greatness stands, the queen of foreign lands, which now even seems to face the heavens her glory's place, naught resting under skies that dares affront her eyes, so that she needs but fear the weapons Jove doth bear, who angry at one blow may her quite overthrow.
And that's the entirety of Act 4. Luckily, Act 5 is much shorter. So we've got a few minutes to discuss this. It's really interesting. I think that I'm going to open with a general question, which is so Caesar, how genuinely sad is he about the news of Mark Antony's death? How genuine is that reaction in front of an outsider? Because they spend about 20 minutes going, "God, Antony, yeah, got him." This is great. And then moment messenger arrives. Oh, this is so sad, and he's crying and things. So Sarah.
I'm going to take the position that he's proper shocked. He's proper shocked. And I think the reason he's proper shocked is because the Schadenfreude only works when the guy's alive. It's like he can only crow over him about the fact that he's defeated him when Antony's actually alive. I mean, he's always been this great big presence. And there's no fun in it anymore. And also, I think, on some level, Caesar's going to see him and Antony as kind of like, yes, they're rivals, but they're also, on some level, Caesar wants to see himself as Antony's equal. And when your equal goes and stabs himself, it stops being fun. It's like the chickens have come home to roost. So I think he's genuinely shocked. Long term, how sad is he going to be? Probably not that sad, but in the actual moment when he hears the news, I think he's proper stunned by it.
I see lots of hands. Francis, Lois, and then Alan.
Yeah, I look at it this way. It's like, from what I've read, Mark Antony was a figure who loomed large in the world at the time. And it's a bit like when anybody like that in modern times dies. Even if you know it's going to happen, the fact that it's happened, it's like, whoa, he's not in the world anymore. I mean, I had very mixed feelings about Princess Diana, but when she was killed in Paris, I was just like, what? I think it's that, this person who's been in the public eye for so long, and suddenly they're not there anymore. For me, it's that kind of feeling.
Yeah, but I mean, it's slightly different. I'm not going to complete that thought. Lois.
I think one reason it looks to me like hypocrisy is simply that there's that great long bit of stichomythia between him and Agrippa, in which he's just doing realpolitik. I'm going to kill everybody on the other side because that's the only way to be safe. We've had almost exactly the same dialogue in Damon and Pythias, between Dionysius and Eubulus, I think it was. And that's because they're both imitating Seneca, of course. And this is the favorite passage in Seneca that everybody imitates if they get half a chance. But it does make it very hard to believe Caesar after all of that. I mean, if that weren't there, I think one might be able to make more sense of it. Yeah, it's a funny scene. I mean, I wonder what happened to Lucilius, who was Antony's great pal. Why isn't he there in when Antony's committing suicide? Why is it Eros and we haven't met before? I don't know. The dramaturgy seems odd to me.
Well, I think it's possibly they're trying to utilize people from history, and that's the function that they did. And I mean, it has to be said, in the audio version, we actually made Dircetus into Lucilius as a single character. So he was out of the room, he came back in. He saw it happen. And that saved on a doubling, and that sort of worked. I don't know, actually. We haven't done the edit. It could be terrible. Alan?
Yeah, I mean, coming back to the question of how genuine is Caesar's disappointment, my view is that he's just been deprived of his big production number, which was the triumph taken back to Rome with all the booty, and with two villains who could then be topped in front of the proles.
Yeah, he's they're very determined to secure the treasure and secure Cleopatra at the end of that scene,
I think he wanted the triple whammy, which was to have Antony there as well. One at each end of the arena. The other thing that struck me was that we commented yesterday that all of the choruses are actually done in verse with rhyme. Very few of the major longer speeches are, apart from the Caesar one, which there was a definite element of rhyme in it. And I think that's why it maybe flowed slightly easier for me.
Well, I think because they have the sort of back and forth moments as well that are very that's where the rhymes seem to live quite forcibly, and we've had that in other plays as well where they have these very formal backs and forths. At that moment when someone put in the chat when Caesar's mate just sort of suddenly grows a backbone, grows a spine at this point of going, we're just going to kill all the problematic people, and just going, oh, hang on, because he's been very yes man all the way through it, and suddenly he's just going, oh, murdering people, cold blood. That's Agrippa's suddenly getting a bit. Oh, hang on, wasn't sure I signed up for that. I really like that about it, because it is all this building him up, and he's making, and it's like Agrippa's having so much fun, and then suddenly the reality of what they're probably going to have to do, Caesar just sort of reminds him of this. You do know we're going to have to kill a lot of people now. Eric?
I was going to say that, it's starting to remind me of the tragedy of Sophonisba, which is kind of very, oh, but I must die in order for you to be happy, or sort of so you can move on, and that kind of thing. It's wait, you don't have to. I mean, you could just move out of the house, or for example, it's that kind of vibe that it's not inevitable necessarily, but it's inevitable because of who the characters are, not because of circumstance.
Yeah, and I said earlier, put a pin in where you might want to enact Antony's death. We've got a moment here that we've got a long speech, but there's no reason why we can't add a dumb show to it and add dialogue, inferred dialogue from that text into it. Sarah.
Yeah, this would be the place. This would be the place to have it. Although I think you'd have to be careful, because if you were going to dumb show that, you'd have to dumb show Antony on the stretcher as well, and that's on a knife edge. That's on a that. I mean, that could be amazing. Like if you had the budget to do it properly, but you would have to make sure you did it properly. Otherwise, your audience would be in hysterics.
Yeah, it's always that the mechanics of getting winches and things. I'd go with flashes of images. The text is full of flashes of images, and I quite like to throw those in there. And maybe not be too hyper realistic with it. We could go into interpretive dance here, people. We could have a lot of fun. Francis.
Yeah, one other thing that struck me about the scene was it seemed very much like ancient Greek tragedy. The messenger running on at the end and saying, "Oh God, all these terrible things have happened, blood and guts all over the place, and so-and-so's killed themselves, and somebody else has done this, and it's all terrible."
And then we get this chorus. I really like the soldiers' chorus at the end of this, because these are soldiers with no illusions as to what, a lot of us die. We're kind of hoping that maybe this is our last tour of duty, because we kind of don't rate our chances. And, be quite, we've seen a lot of blood. We've seen water. The imagery there is really, really strong. And this chorus actually again, we felt worked was one voice. It was almost like just a soldier cleaning his boots after sharpening his gladius, and actually being quite. We played around in lots of different ways, but it's doing an interesting job. The fact that we've suddenly gone very Roman for this entire act. Sarah, very briefly.
Yes, I absolutely love this. It's got such a pounding rhythm. And I agree, you'd need them to be doing something, because it's almost like a sea shanty, and the way it's just it's got all this movement in it. And I wondered if maybe, are they off to carry out the orders and get Cleopatra? Like, are they busy disassembling a tomb, like moving chunks of masonry, or dynamiting a door? Well, not dynamiting a door, but ramming a door or whatever as they're doing this, because it's just got so much movement in it.
You could go with the whole choreography thing of them square bashing whilst with it. I think that might work. It might. There's lots of possibilities with it. I quite like. Other thoughts before we move into the final act? It's not as long, but we are running short on time. Eric.
Well, it kind of it made me think of that thing of Caesar going, "Yeah, I'm going to kill them all," and then it's like, well, who are you going to rule over if you kill everybody? This makes no sense. Who's going to build things? Who's going to fix the city? Who's going to clean? It's like, well, yeah, you kind of need a few people around, but he never concedes. He just kind of goes, "I'm going to kill everything," and then what's his name? The messenger comes on. Whereas before we never had a messenger to narrate things. We didn't have a messenger in the previous 2 or 3 acts. This is the only one with the messenger, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, with a sort of outsider random figure. I don't know. Did they sack Alexander? I can't remember. I can't remember whether they were magnanimous or not. And just, having got the leaders, just raided the booty. Anyway, Act 5, we are going into the final moments of Cleopatra. I've just realised just now that I slightly cocked up in the doublings. So there'll be moments when Lynn will be slightly sashaying between 2 characters, but it kind of works. So I'm sure it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Final act. There is no chorus at the end. Cleopatra, Euphron, who's looking after the children of Cleopatra on stage, Charmion and Eras as well.
Oh, cruel fortune! Oh, accursed lot! Oh, plaguey love! Oh, most detested brand! Oh, wretched choice! Oh, beauty's miserable! Oh, deadly state! Oh, deadly royalty! Oh, hateful life! Oh, queen most lamentable! Oh, Antony! By my fault buriable! Oh, hellish work of heaven! Alas, the wrath of all the gods at once on us is fallen. Unhappy queen! Oh, would I in this world the wandering light of day had never seen, alas! Of mine the plague and poison, I the crown have lost, my ancestors me left. This realm I have to strangers subject made, and robbed my children of their heritage. Yet this is naught, alas, unto the price of you, dear husband, whom my snares entrapped. Of you, whom I have plagued, whom I have with bloody hand a guest of mouldy tomb. Of you, whom I destroyed. Of you, dear Lord, whom I of empire, honour, life have spoiled. Oh, hurtful woman! And can I yet live? Yet longer live in this ghost-haunted tomb? Yet can I yet breathe? Can yet in such annoy? Yet can my soul within this body dwell? Oh, sisters, you that spin the threads of death. Oh, Styx. Oh, Phlegethon, you brooks of hell. Oh, imps of night.
Live for your children's sake. Let not your death of kingdom them deprive. Alas, what shall they do? Who will have care? Who will preserve this royal race of yours? Who pity take? Even now, meseems I see these little souls to servile bondage fallen and born in triumph.
Oh, most miserable!
Their tender arms with cursed cord fast bound at their weak backs.
Oh, gods, what pity more!
Their steely necks to ground with weakness bend.
Oh, never on us, good gods, such mischief sent.
And pointed at with fingers as they go?
Rather 1,000 deaths.
Lastly, his knife some cruel caitiff in their blood improve.
Ah, my heart breaks! By shady banks of hell, by fields whereon the lonely ghosts do tread, by my soul, and the soul of Antony, I you beseech, Euphron, of them have care. Be their good father. Let your wisdom let that they fall not into this tyrant's hands. Rather, conduct them where their freezed locks black Ethiops to neighbour sun do show. On wavy ocean, at the water's well, on barren cliffs of snowy Caucasus, to tiger swift, to lions, and to bears, and rather unto every coast, to every land and sea. For naught I fear as rage of him, whose thirst no blood can quench. Oh, adieu, dear children. Children dear, adieu. Good Isis you to place of safety guide, far from our faces, where you your lives may lead in free estate, devoid of servile dread. Remember not, my children, you were born of such a princely race. Remember not so many brave kings which have Egypt ruled, in right descent your ancestors have been. That this great Antony your father was, Hercules' blood, and more than he in praise. For your high courage such remembrance will, seeing your fall, with burning rages fill. Who knows, if that your hands, false destiny, the sceptres promised of imperious Rome, instead of all of them, shall crooked sheep hooks bear, needles or forks, or guide the cart or plough. Ah, learn to endure. Your birth and high estate forget, my babes, and bend to force of fate. Farewell, my babes, farewell. My heart is closed with pity and pain, myself with death enclosed. My breath doth fail. Oh, farewell for evermore. Your sire and me you shall see nevermore. Farewell, sweet care. Farewell.
Madam, adieu.
Oh, this voice kills me. Oh, good gods, I swooned. I can no more, I die.
Madam, alas, and will you yield to go? Ah, speak to us. Come, children.
We come.
Follow we our chance, the gods shall guide us.
And exit Euphron and the children.
Oh, too cruel lot, oh, too hard chance. Sister, what shall we do? What shall we do, alas, if murthering dart of death arrive while that in slumbering swoon, half dead she lie with anguish overgone?
Her face is frozen.
Madam, for God's love, leave us not thus. Bid us yet first farewell. Alas, weep over Antony. Let not his body be without due rites entombed.
Huh?
Madam,
Me.
how faint she is.
My sisters, hold me up. How wretched I, how cursed am. And was there ever one, by fortune's hate, into more dolours thrown? Ah, weeping Niobe, although thy heart beholds itself enwrapped in causeful woe for thy dead children, that a senseless rock with grief become, on Sipylus thou standst in endless tears, yet didst thou never feel the weight of grief that on my heart do lie. Thy children thou, mine, I, poor soul, have lost, and lost their father. More than them I wail. Lost this fair realm, yet me the heavens wrath into a stone not yet transformed hath. Phaeton sister, daughters of the sun, which wail your brother fallen into the streams of stately Par, the gods upon the banks, your bodies to bank-loving alders turn. For me, I sigh, I ceaseless weep and wail, and heaven pitiless laughs at my woe, revives, renews it still, and in the end, oh cruelty, doth death for comfort lend. Die, Cleopatra, then, no longer stay from Antony, who thee at Styx attends. Go, join thy ghost with his, and sob no more without his love. Within these tombs enclose it.
Alas, yet let us weep. Let sudden death from him our tears, and those last duties take unto his tomb we owe.
Oh, let us weep while moisture lasts, then die before his feet.
Who furnish well mine eyes with streaming tears? My boiling anguish worthily to wail. Wail thee, Antony, Antony, my heart. Alas, how much I weeping liquor want. Yet have mine eyes quite drawn their conduits dry by long beweeping my disastered harms. Now reason is that from my side they suck first vital moisture, then the vital blood. Then let the blood from my sad eyes outflow, and smoking yet with thine in mixture grow. Moist it, and heat it new, and never stop, or watering thee while yet remains one drop.
Antony, take our tears. This is the last of all the duties we to thee can yield before we die.
These sacred obsequies take, Antony, and take them in good part.
O goddess, thou whom Cyprus doth adore, Venus of Paphos, bent to work us harm for old Iulus' blood, if thou take care of Caesar, why of us takest thou no care? Antony did descend as well as he from thine own son by long enchained line, and might have ruled by one and selfsame fate, true Trojan blood, the stately Roman state. Antony, poor Antony, my dear soul, now but a block, the booty of a tomb. Thy life, thy heat is lost, thy colour gone, and hideous paleness on thy faith has ceased. Thy eyes, two suns, the lodging place of love, which yet for tents to warlike Mars did serve, looked up in lids, as false day's cheerful light, which darkness flies, do winking hide in night. Antony, by our true loves, I thee beseech, by our heart's sweet sparks have set on fire our holy marriage, and the tender root of our dear babes, knots of our amity. Thy doleful voice, thy ear let entertain, and take me with thee to the hellish plain, thy wife, thy friend. Here, Antony, Oh, hear my sobbing sighs, if here thou be or there. Lived thus long the winged race of years. Ended I have as destiny decreed, flourished and reigned, and taken just revenge of him who me both hated and despised. Happy, alas, too happy, if of Rome only the fleet had hither never come. And now of me an image great shall go under the earth to bury there my woe. What say I? Where am I? Oh, Cleopatra, poor Cleopatra, grief thy reason reaves. No, most happy in this hapless case to die with thee. Dying thee embrace, my body joined with thine, my mouth with thine, my mouth whose moisture burning sighs have dried to be in one self tomb and one self chest, and wrapped with thee in one self sheet to rest. The sharpest torment in my heart I feel is that I stay from thee, my heart, this while. Die will I straight now. Now straight will I die. And straight with thee a wandering shade will be. Under the cypress trees thou haunt'st alone, where brooks of hell do falling seem to moan. But yet I stay, and yet thee overlive. But ere I die, due rites I may thee give. 1,000 sobs I from my breast will tear, with 1,000 plates thy funerals adorn. My hair shall serve for thy oblations, my boiling tears for thy effusions, mine eyes thy fire, for out of them the flame which burnt thy heart on me enamoured came. Weep, my companions, weep, and from your eyes rain down on him of tears a brinish stream. Mine can no more, consumed by the coals which from my breast as from a furnace rise. Martyr your breast with multiplied blows, with violent hands tear of your hanging hair. Outrage your face. Alas, why should we seek, since now we die, our beauties more to keep? I, spent in tears, not able more to spend, but kiss him now. What rests me more to do? Then let me kiss you. Your fair eyes, my light, front seat of honour, face, most fierce, most fair. Oh, neck, oh, arms, oh, hands, oh, breast where death, oh, mischief comes to choke up vital breath. 1,000 kisses, 1,000 more, let you my mouth for honour's farewell give. But in this office weak, my limbs may grow, fainting on you, and forth my soul may flow.
And the play ends there. And yes, no chorus, no, Cleopatra over the body of Antony there. We know it's all quite messy at this point. So, yeah. Lovely fun speech there from Cleopatra at the end. You enjoyed that, didn't you, Sarah?
I really did.
We could tell.
Could you really? Nothing like a bit of scenery chewing on a Thursday afternoon.
You know, I think she's earned it. I
think she has. I mean, yeah.
Remember the play is called The Tragedy of Antonie. So the fact that we're not physically seeing the corpse, so the focus on this is the dead body of Antony. All the way through this is, yes, we do finally think of the children. Somebody thinks of the children, but they really, really have to prod her. They really have to shove the children in her face, going, "Look." Lois.
Yeah, in fact, that struck me as one of the few points where you might have a bit of dramatic action, because it seems very odd to take the children away just as they've seen their mother collapse to the floor, apparently dead. And it seems to me that they really ought to try to run to her, and then the come children, get away from her, and then they take them away, something like that.
Yeah, well, yeah. There's all sorts going on here. It's a busy little scene for how long it is. Other thoughts? Eric?
The bit at the end where she's crying over, his corpse. The way it's written, it's very sort of Andromache crying over Hector kind of thing. It's that thing of like she's finally, resigned to his death, kind of. She's finally got him back in one piece. But I mean, obviously, Andromache, not not Cleopatra. But it's that sort of, it's that depth of emotion, I think.
This whole thing is driven on a sort of wave of emotion. I mean, there's an awful lot of lamenting all the way through. It's it does manage how I think successfully build to this level of lamentation by the very end. And I think it pays for it quite well. Other thoughts from the room? Helen?
Yeah, my question in the chat I don't think got answered. On the French stage at this time, would a woman have been acting Cleopatra?
The problem with answering that question is I don't know what this time is precisely from the original play to date, because obviously this is a translation, so I don't know how much earlier he wrote it. Let me just have a little look. They were before us, as I recall, but I can't remember how much before
By
us.
quite a way,
Yeah.
I think.
But I'm not sure when the original was written, so I'll just check that.
While you're checking, can I throw in a thought?
Yes, everyone can throw in thoughts. That's a question for things. So Sarah and then Lynn, I think.
Well, I mean, I'm sure I read somewhere that this was a closet play. So it wasn't meant to be performed on a public stage. It was meant for like a private, audience.
From Mary Sidney's side.
From Mary Sidney, yeah. I don't know about the
original,
but Mary Sidney wrote it, translated it, wrote it to be a closet play. So there's no reason why a woman couldn't have acted Cleopatra in that circumstance. I wouldn't have thought.
Oh, in private performance, yeah, no reason at all. But we're talking about the original text at the moment, which
okay.
Irritatingly, I can't. In this edition, I have no note on to actually when the hell it was written. Lynn, sorry.
Yeah, the no women on stage thing, that's an English thing.
Yeah.
That's my remembrance of history of European drama at the time. That England was unique in not allowing actresses. So I think that the French version would have had women playing women's parts, I think.
I think by the 17th century, that was definitely true. But I mean, I know in Italy, for example, I think Commedia was originally all male, and then somewhere around in the second half of the 16th century, women started acting, and it became quite a big deal. I mean, the great, this is one reason why people like Isabella Andreini became so famous. I think it was something new. And I think the same was true in Spain, actually, that women, they certainly had actresses by the end of the 16th century, but I think a lot of drama was men only. And that's why I'm not absolutely sure about France. But in any case, I think it was probably sort of an academic type audience or a court audience.
Yeah, I find this really rather disturbing that I can't actually find any reference to when Garnier actually wrote the damn play. So yeah, I think we're going to put that into later. We'll come out. There is an answer. We'll come up with all the variables another time. Let's talk about the play as it stands and what it's doing to us. Alan.
I think actually Dan did comment yesterday that the French was about 1580-ish.
That's why I need to know when the play was actually written for the French. We'll put a pin in that for the moment. Let's talk about the play as it stands.
I've got 1572.
Have you? That's fabulous. Really? Then maybe it is, but then maybe it isn't. We're going online. I don't want to start presenting things as facts for which we do not know the answers. We'll come back to this another time. Other thoughts about this play as it stands, published in the 1590s in England? How are we finding Cleopatra at the end?
I think she's
self-obsessed.
I think she's the payoff for the whole play. I mean, you've had all these men posturing through this, posturing, ranting and wailing, and like, I mean, I know this is the tragedy of Antony, but I personally think she just this. I mean, this is the scene with her. I mean, I know it's his body, so he's still the focus technically, but I think this is the scene that is going to be branded on the audience's minds when they leave. And I also love the fact that it's really ambiguous. The fact that she faints on him and dies, and her soul flows out. But I mean, you could do all kinds of stuff with that.
Nothing in the text states she dies. I would argue very, very strongly she cannot die, because then it is about her, and the play is not doing that.
Yeah.
Also, in terms of the English version, Mary Sidney is very keen to badger someone to write a sequel. So certainly in Mary Sidney's mind, she's not dead. So there may be a different Robert Garnier. I can't find in the text any in the French any stage direction at the end stating that she's dead. It may be more explicit in the text that she expires at that moment. But otherwise, that.
Well, that would tie in then with an idea that I came up with, because there's no asp and she doesn't actually die or whatever. You could actually end it with her like swooning over him, and then just as she's swooning, the Roman soldiers burst into the tomb, because we know from the previous scene that they've been like, trying to get in. And then, she's slumped over the body. The handmaidens are there, like tearing their hair out, and like everybody freezes, and the soldiers come in, and it's like EastEnders music. Do, 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 do.
Love it.
What happens next?
Love it. Yeah, absolutely. That's the kind of response we want. That's what we're hunting for. Lois.
Yeah, I think if you did this with the Daniel play right after it, that would work very well, because this obviously is the equivalent of that moment where they're mourning over Antony, and then they're not allowed to commit suicide. I thought maybe those two speeches of Iris and Charmion, who say, "Take our tears, Antony," or whatever, seem to be them going into some kind of ritual. And possibly Cleopatra starts some ritual of her own at the beginning of that speech.
Yes, lovely. Okay, we're going into final thoughts now, because we only have a few minutes left. Tamara, thoughts about the play overall, as opposed to just this. Thoughts about performance. Parts you'd like or not want, or how you would produce it. What do we like? Do we not like? What do we want to do with it?
I think that's part of the reason why I'm so quiet, because I'm struggling with it as a dramatist in a way. I think this is one you'd have to, or at least I would have to seriously workshop this one. I'm still missing my clown. I'm missing the comedy B plot. I said that yesterday. Unrelated random clown. What strikes me with some of the scenes is that, aside from the messenger who draws the picture verbally and with telling the story, that last scene especially is like a tableau. It you can almost see it in your head, like some sort of Renaissance painting of Cleopatra with the dead Antony and then the children there. And I think that really fascinated me, that her children are there, because they barely ever get mentioned. Half the people I know, if I told them that Cleopatra had children, they would be like, "You're making that up. That's from Asterix." And she had 3 kids, one of them a daughter who actually survived longish for the time. And it's just they're never mentioned, and here they are actually on stage. So I really like that I'm actually seeing the kids in this very scarring scene for kids, but I think that's part of the effect. Also, the fact that they call her Madam which I know would have been normal back then, but it's just from a modern perspective, it's like, they have a good relationship with their mum.
Yeah, royals who only see their parents every so often. In this occasion, not at her best. Yeah, it's fascinating about the focus of it all, and the fact that it is all these series of vignettes, and in a sense, it's not about what's happening; it's what's happened, and it's everyone's reactions. The whole thing is reactions. I mean, this is a play where I'm going, it can't have an interval. You can't have you dissipate this. You've got to hunker down and just keep making things worse. Helen, final thoughts?
Well, I'm very much with Tamara. I have a lot of problems with this as a play. I think it's tremendous that we've play read it. I think it's excellent that it exists and that it is known about. I think it should be well studied. I think there is so much more that is far more important to put on the stage that I would put it very, very, very far down my list of things that ought to be revived.
Again, this isn't a sorting hat, Helen. We're not here to. We are here to ask the question: what is the best thing for this play? What is the best thing we can get out of it? That's the question that we're here to ask. We're not here to play sorting. The universe already has a sorting hat. All of these plays are at the bottom.
Okay.
You don't need to add to
this one is, so long as I wasn't required to be part of the production team.
But what would you do?
I say good luck to you.
What's the best way of presenting this play?
I'd very much like to see the French version. I don't know that there is one. I'm sorry, I'm just going to be really, really negative here.
Okay, then we're going to move straight on. Eric, final thoughts. What's the best you can get out of this play?
I don't know. I think it has some really great monologues and description, as we've said, sort of the chorus parts as well. But I can see that being a challenge, trying to get all those, even if you've got 3 people trying to say it at the same time on stage live. I think it could go wrong very, very quickly. It's even, well, obviously, unless you rehearse it very, very well, which obviously you would, I guess. But I think you could mine it for a lot of monologues, which don't exist in modern drama that much. You don't get very, early modern drama. It's hard to find good female monologues, especially for Cleopatra's pre-dying scene. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's good stuff in it, and you could sort of, with a bit of refinement and the bit of, I don't know, sort of flow, it could, because obviously we stopped, but and we're not all actors, so it's kind of that thing of, well, yeah, the energy kind of fell flat a bit here, it fell it went faster here and that kind of thing. So I think it could be produced as a play, but it needs a lot of work in terms of performance and rehearsal.
Okay, Alan, final thoughts. I don't know why
I'm worried now.
I must admit, I'm with Tamara that I don't actually see this really as a drama. It's an interesting piece. There's some beautiful language in there in places. I think we discussed yesterday that the first sequence with Cleopatra and the ladies would make a good standalone piece. I think the choruses could work, potentially not done as unison voices, but as 2 or 3 voices alternating verses. But I'm not sure that you could actually make it interesting on stage, because there's a heck of a lot of words and not a lot of action.
Yeah, I think one of the things is everyone's talking about drama. This doesn't especially if we're talking about stage, then we're talking about theatre. How does this function as theatre? It doesn't have to be dramatic. Not everything has to be dramatic. And this play is doing a different thing. And to constantly ask, well, where's the drama? Where's the narrative? Is the wrong question to be asking of this text. He's not trying to do that. So it's the question of what other theatrical things can we throw at this that might make it to help bolster what the text is doing, and to give it an interesting thrust. Francis, final thoughts?
Yeah, I remembered what I wanted to say earlier when I lost my train of thought. I find it very interesting that this play begins where most other tellings of the Antony and Cleopatra story start to end. I mean, usually in other productions of this story, this portion of the narrative takes about 10 minutes. And here it's strung out to this great length. So I find that very interesting. There's some lovely speeches. I'm not sure how you would stage this. But I would be very interested to see what a really smart director would do with it if you gave it to him or her, and said, have a go at this. I'd just be very interested to see what how a modern theatre director would actually stage this.
Lois, final thoughts?
Yeah, this seems to me terribly like operas by Monteverdi and Handel, actually. And that seems to me how it would work perfectly. One would cut the text quite a lot, but I mean, it just seems to be designed exactly, particularly like Handel opera, where mainly it is just one character after another, singing usually about how they love someone but hate them at the same time. Then they go off and someone else comes on and says that they hate somebody but love him at the same time, and then they go off and so on. And it goes on like that. And it seems to me this would work very well, but it really needs music. I mean, it's all about each person expressing themselves at great length and running, every possible emotion you can drag out of a fairly basic situation. I think it would work fine that way. I don't know what you would do without music. I mean, it seems to me it needs a lot of real richness around it, a beautiful set, static, and a beautiful music. And I don't know, I thought of things like, shadow images on a screen, silhouetted, acting the story out or something like that. But I think mainly just treat it as opera.
I'd like the music side of things. I mean, I don't know that I see this as being desperately static at all. I see this as full of moving images. It is that thing that we are at the moment. We are a tableau in this Zoom forum. That is what we are. We are celebrity squares, and maybe that's hampering our thoughts about where scenes can go. I've gone around most of the room, I think, apart from Lynn and Sarah, isn't it? So Lynn, then Sarah.
Yes, I basically could only echo everything I've heard so far. It would be difficult to stage, but I think the idea of setting it to music is really fascinating. I was kind of thinking, could you, not kidding, make it sort of narrated interpretive dance. If you had a dancer Antony and a dancer Lucilius and a dancer Cleopatra, and there was choreography and then a speaking version of each of those, so that there's choreography to go on stage at the same time as that person's doppelganger is speaking. In any case, I think it would need to be cut pretty severely. It's Antony and Lucilius really do go on at some length in Act 3. But I also definitely agree with Sarah that the bingo moment, the payoff is Cleopatra at the end. It really feels to me, on just sort of an intuitive level, that the emotion becomes more authentic and the verse gets better in that last speech of Cleopatra. It just seems to be aesthetically more successful than a lot of the play. So that is kind of the end game that we're moving towards.
Sarah, final thoughts?
I'd stage it. I mean, putting my editor's hat on for a moment, I'd hack it about without any guilt whatsoever. I'd get my blue pencil out and take out large chunks of it, and then I'd take my editor hat off and put my directing hat on, and I direct the shit out of it. I mean, it's like you want music, you want physical theatre, you want to really play up the psychodrama, because that's what this has got in spades. Yeah, it doesn't have a lot of actual action. There's not a lot going on, but the psychodrama, oh my God. And if you edited it down so you could really, I mean, the way, it's down to the editor, the way you edit it, you could absolutely play up those key moments of emotional, conflict and psychodrama. And yeah, you'd probably only end up with something, because it's not a long play, you'd only end up with something that was probably the length of a one-act play, like a sort of, 40-minute tops play. But wow, it would pack a punch. And I think it would be great.
Yeah, I have to say, this play is full of potential, and you don't actually need to cut that much. I genuinely don't think you do. I mean, I compare yesterday's session with Cleopatra and Charmion, when people really went for it. I mean, the thing is, the intention with Lucilius talking to Mark Antony is he's got to make him listen. And he doesn't, and the energy that comes, we're doing a rough reading here, and so because some of it's quite difficult, we're going through it relatively sedately, and I think this text is wild, all over the place in places, and I the potential on stage. I mean, I've been working on it as audio, and I don't know how that's going to come out in the end. But we've done just the potential of pulling it on stage, just going, really want to do this on stage. But even with cuts and doing it as a double bill, I don't see it being that much. It's not a long play. It's 80-90 minutes as it stands, and a few trims, and you're getting it down to an hour. I've done it as or bits of it as a read through. As stage reading with narration, and got that down to 45 minutes. I don't think you get it down to that without essentially removing most of the meat of the play. This play has such potential. Unlike other texts where we enjoy a play and a text comes to us and it says, just get some actors and pull it on stage. And that's an easy exercise. Anybody can do that. Anyone can pick up Dr. Faust and say, most of this works. That's easy. To some degree, it's not our job really to comment on it, because it's just to say, that bit works, that bit doesn't. With this, of going, we can do something with this, and that always excites me, and that's why I get a little bit cross sometimes. It's because I care, because sometimes people just leap to, let's not talk about this play, because if we start from that position, all of the plays we're looking at are doomed, all of them. So always starting from a positive, and sometimes they aren't salvageable. Sometimes we just quietly forget about them, but we have to go through the process first. Lois, very briefly, because we've gone over time.
Yeah, you said double bill. I just wondered, would that be with the Daniel or with a comedy or what?
The Daniel. Basically, Mary Sidney twisted his arm to write a sequel. With Cleopatra, and there are two slightly different versions of that, and we will be reading them probably sometime next year. And the idea of, if that functions, that will be able to come round, and that might make a good theatrical double bill, and that would be quite exciting. And then we can adapt the hell out of them. Because we can, because of course then there's a question of unity between the two plays and how much that functions. So that's a journey that I'm really excited to continue with, and just continue with this as well. But that is it for this session. It's gone on, but there was a lot of text to get through. I'd like to thank all the readers for putting up with me, and and for giving this play a bit of an airing. Farewell, everyone, and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.